What's up, y'all? Rob Anderson, Clean Power Wash, Salisbury, Maryland, and Delmarva Christmas Lights. Somebody was asking as far as insurance and workers' comp, and I think they also asked, let's see, so speaking about insurance coverage, liability, commercial, vehicle, equipment, etc. Insurance is always important to have. Plain and simple, I mean, it's coverage. It's a difference between getting jobs and not getting jobs. It's a difference between being legitimate and not legitimate. That being said, I'm not going to tell you that I had insurance the whole time or that we had workers' comp as soon as we should have had it. We've certainly always had our auto and commercial auto. And that's something that you want to make sure that you talk with your agent. A lot of times there can be just because you have insurance through State Farm or Progressive or whatever on your vehicle doesn't mean that it's written with business use listed in it as a rider on it, or that it's a business or commercial insurance policy. We found that out with previous policies when we went to talk to another agent. We shopped around. And I would recommend, especially with auto is always trying to save you money on there. Your personal property and your GL, those are worth checking out on a regular basis. Even if you don't switch, it's still good just to check, just to make sure that that you're getting a good deal. And also, as you grow, especially if you're growing rapidly, the amount of coverage and the amount of exposure that you're going to have is going to change quickly. Fairly standard is to have a $1 million general liability insurance for your basic business. That's going to be sufficient 90% of the time. Again, based off where you are, your situation may be different, but a minimum of $1 million is kind of like an industry standard, and just for most services and whatnot. You will occasionally have situations where if it's a large commercial project, they may want to see $2, $3, $5 million in coverage. That's very rare. And sometimes even if that is the requirement, unless it's like some large institution, you may be able to, say, hey, we're power washing. I understand certainly your normal requirement for all vendors to have XYZ amount of insurance. Here's our liability insurance and everything there. We include a for bidding purposes only document. It's just GL shows our, when it was paid or when it was active, whatever 12-month period for. And if customers, especially commercial ones, if they need that GL or workers' comp or whatever else, with them listed as the insured or covered for that particular event, pretty easy to get a COI or certificate of insurance for that. Workers' comp, you're gonna need that if you have employees. I know a lot of people will try and get around that, and I certainly did too early on, by listing some of your people as subs. You can get a exclusion policy for yourself on workers' comp. I see this happen a lot of times where guys are like, well, they require workers' comp to clean this, 50,000 square foot building or whatever it may be. I don't have workers' comp. How can I do this? Be really honest. That's usually in there, one, for their protection, but also for jobs that size. They're looking for more than just an owner-operator. That's not to say an owner-operator is not capable of doing it, but that's one of those reasons why they have that requirement. As far as things like incorporating, and I have made previous videos about that, talk to a CPA and a lawyer. And depending on where you are in business, I mean, first and foremost, get your name, your DBA, or you're doing business as straight name registration. And it can literally be Robert Anderson, trading as Robert Anderson. It allows you to have a separate bank account. We went from a DBA, then we went to an LLC, and now we're an S Corp. It just depends on how big the business is, your overall revenue, overall assets and liabilities, and obviously the taxes. Your CPA will tell you on an annual basis, like, hey, you should consider, we really need to convert you over to a C Corp or an S Corp or whatever it may be, because of the size of your business. As far as, again, back to the auto stuff, make sure that it's got actual business use for the vehicles covered. And also that it's got it so that your different employees, that they have them on record as insured. Very, very early on, I had a situation where a guy basically decided to slam his brakes on in the rain, in front of one of our trucks. In front of the only truck we had back then. Rear-ended, just literally caused fender damage. But because that guy, who only worked for me for, he'd worked for me for 2 or 3 months a year, just during the winter, but he was not on the policy. The insurance, took care of whatever the cost was. But that guy was no longer allowed to drive the vehicles. Had he been a listed driver, it would have been fine. We would have kept going. Depending on somebody's driving record, they may be excluded, so that's something to consider. But always make sure that your insurance agent knows the list of drivers that are on there. Sometimes it'll impact your premiums. Sometimes it's just making sure that all your ducks are in a row. We had, now that we've got the shop on the back side of our property, it's really just a big detached garage. But it's very clear that we have a business on premises. If your homeowner's insurance doesn't have that rider, and you need to make sure that your homeowner's insurance company knows what's going on there, they could drop you, or if you were to have an issue, they could deny the claim. My agent gave me some examples of situations that have happened, and where they were working on some equipment, something caught fire, burned down the whole garage. Well, they said, hey, you got a business on premise. And it can even be minor stuff. If an insurance company really wants to hold you to it, they're going to hold you to it, and deny that claim. That's why you want to have a good relationship with whoever your agent is. Go in, talk to them, explain what's going on. And they like businesses, because your average homeowner is going to have those 2 or 3 cars for a long time. We've gone from 2 cars to 5 cars to 6. We're about to buy another vehicle now. So it's new policies over and over and over again. And I would recommend to talk to a broker that get referrals for, but they can shop you in a couple different insurance companies and make sure that they'll do lots of questions to make sure that you're properly covered, and also to look at any other additional things. Right now we have an additional umbrella policy. We just got that added on. The garage and shop is insured on its own policy, and also because we've got so much contents in there, making sure that now we've got our Christmas lights stored. That's $30,000 in lights that if it went up in smoke, we need to make sure that we have appropriate coverage for that. So anyways, I hope that helps. See ya.